So the move command can be used to, and I'll do the syntax so you can see. Okay, notice it says move files and rename files in directories. So it shows you the syntax for moving, and then it shows you the syntax for renaming. Okay, so again, personally, I used rename command to rename. Okay, but years ago, when the rename command didn't allow you to rename directories, only allowed you to rename files, I used move because that was your only option. Okay, if I wanted to rename a folder back in whatever year, rename command could only rename files. So if I wanted to rename a folder, I would have to use the move command. And I'm talking, guys, before the graphical user interface where you could right-click on the folder and rename it that way. Okay, but from the command line, you only could rename with the move command. Okay, so first I'm going to use the move command as it's intended for, and that is to move stuff. Okay, and then I'll look at using the move command to actually rename something. Okay, so again, I want to, anytime that you're copying, one thing you want to remember, when you copy, we used the copy command a few minutes ago, when you use the copy command, your end result is you have two copies of the same file, right? You have one in one place and one in another place. When you move, you don't have the one in the original location anymore. Okay, you're taking that file from one location and you're moving it to another location. So it's not a backup. Okay, copy can be used to back up something. Move is not a backup. Move just takes it and puts it in a new location. Okay, so if I want to use the move command to move, let's say I want to move one file. I want to move the titan.txt file to that batch directory that I just created. So if I say move titan.txt and the destination is g:\batch. So the source, okay, this is what I'm moving, okay, and this is where I'm moving it to. Okay, when I do that and I press the enter key, I get one file moved. If I do a directory of batch, I can see that the titan.txt file does exist in that location. Okay, simple enough. Move one file to a new location. The first parameter, absolute or relative path. Second parameter, absolute or relative path. Taking one file and moving it to a particular location. If I want to move all files, I want to move all files that exist in the sports directory. Okay, I want to move sports \**. If you don't specify, most often the commands we've looked at so far, if you just reference the folder name, it usually implies all files in the folder, not with move. Okay, if I use move without \** at the end of this, then it's going to move the entire folder and not the files in the folder. So that would be the objective, what is it that you're trying to accomplish. If my goal was to move the entire folder, then that would work. But if my goal is to move all files in the folder, then I do have to specify \** here. So this says all files in the sports folder, and if I want to move them to, let's say, g:\* Fall River, again, reminding you that quotes are needed if the folder destination has spaces in it. Okay, you can see a list here. Now if I do a directory of sports, you can see that there are no longer any files here. It moved the files, not the folders that were in sports. So before I had a bunch of files in sports, now all of those files are in Fall River. Okay, so again, moving all files from a folder from one place to another, the path to that folder including a \** at the end. That's again assuming that you want to move all files. If you only want to move files that meet a certain criteria, like of course I don't have any files left in that folder, so let's say I wanted to move all the files in the Fall River folder that start with the letter S, and I want to move those out to that sports folder. Okay, so in this case 2 files were copied. So again, depending on what it is you're trying to move. If my objective was to move the entire folder, so yes, you can move an entire folder. When you move an entire folder, you're moving the entire folder and all of its contents. So if I wanted to move media to music, okay, if I do here move g:\media to g:\. music, okay? And then I'm going to do tree over here, and you'll see now that media is now in the music directory and all of its contents. Okay, so it doesn't just move the directory, it moves it, and if there's 1,000 directories under there with 1,000 files under there, it's going to move everything to that destination. Okay, so in this case, if that was my objective, then I've accomplished it by moving media to music. Okay, questions? Okay, so using the move command to move, okay, the end result is that they are moved from one place to another. Okay, you can also use the move command to rename, and this is where you want to be careful with the syntax. Again, it's kind of like the opposite of rename. Rename, I said that second parameter can never have a path. With the move command, that second parameter, if you have a path on the first parameter, you need a path on the second parameter. Okay, the same path. That's if you are using the move command to rename. Personally, I prefer to use the rename command. But if you use the move command to rename, then any path that you've specified on the first parameter has to be the same path used on the second parameter. Otherwise, you're going to have moved the folder instead of renaming it. Okay, or moved the file instead of renaming it. So, example. If I said, I want to rename data to my data. Okay, so let's say I'm on the C drive when I do this. I want to say move G:\data, and I want to make sure that I use G:\, in my second parameter. Okay, if I don't, then it's going to move the folder, in this case, to my current location. So if I have a path on the first parameter, then I better have the same path on the second parameter. Okay, if you do that, then it's just renaming that file or folder. Okay, so again, if I press the enter key here and type tree here, you can see now that instead of data, I have my data. Okay, so data is no longer there, but my data is. Okay, had I done, let's say, I'm going to go back out to my G drive, I'm going to move to level 1. And let's say I want to rename that folder now. I want to rename my data back to data. Okay? But I'm going to use the move command, and I'm going to use it incorrectly to show you what happens. So if I type move G:\my data, and if I specify here just data, I'm not putting the G:\. Okay? So let's see what happens. It tells me that one directory was moved. If I type tree over here, no longer do I see my data, okay? But notice under level 1, which is where I was, okay, now the data folder is there. So if my objective was to move the data folder, I should say move the my data folder and give it a new name in its new location, then I've accomplished it. Okay, but if my objective was just to rename that folder, then that second parameter had needed that G:\. Otherwise, it sees this is what I want, this is what I'm renaming, and this is what I want to call it, but because it doesn't have the same path, it doesn't know the move command can also move. It assumes that what you're trying to accomplish is move. So my recommendation is always use move to move and use rename to rename. Okay? That's my recommendation. But be cautious about that move because, again, because it can be used to do both, sometimes you think you're moving something and you're renaming it, or you think you're renaming something and you're moving it. So take the time after you've completed the task to see if you accomplish what it was that you were trying to accomplish. Okay? Questions on the move command? Okay.